أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد
اللهم صل على محمد
وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي أما بعد. We have been discussing in these nights that we've been together the seerah of Rasulullah, and we took as inspiration the statement that Imam Hussein makes that he is setting out to reform his grandfather's ummah, and to do this he wants to revive the sunnah of his grandfather and then follow in those footsteps. And so if we are trying to emulate Imam Hussein and take inspiration from him, then we have to also have the same goal that he had, and we also have to reconnect with the seerah of Rasulullah. And over the nights, we've been looking at different challenges that lie on our path. We've looked at several stories and seen that there are different challenges, different biases that prevent us, I wouldn't say prevent us, that make it very difficult for us to get to the bottom of the truth and to understand what Rasulullah actually did and actually said, without all of the spin and all of the fabrications and all of the false narratives that have been attributed to his story. I don't want to give you the impression that it's an impossible task. I have shown you the problems, but I've also shown you the solutions. There is a way sometimes to use these tools to immunize ourselves against those false narratives. If we're aware of the problems, aware of the biases, then that's a very good step to being able to filter out those things and find that kernel of truth. So it's not a hopeless task. Quite the contrary. It's not a new thing. It's always been a challenge. And it's not only with seerah. Our whole canon of ahadith is like this. Even in fiqh, we face the same trouble. We don't, you and I may not deal with it because we don't delve into fiqh hadith so much directly. We leave it to the mujtahid to do that because that's his job. But the faqih also has to deal with so many ahadith, sometimes falsely attributed to the imam. Sometimes the imam himself has to say something false. There's so many ahadith where the imams themselves have to say the wrong thing and tell people to do the wrong thing out of taqiyya. That becomes a task of the mujtahid to figure out which of these statements of the imam are said out of taqiyya and under this dissimulation and fear of spies or fear of different kinds of hardship for himself or his Shia or some reason, and which are the actual true things he's trying to tell us. So it is a challenge, and it is something that our scholars have also always had to face, and we are still facing it. And it's a very big step to be aware of the problem so that we can not fall prey to these different traps. The story I'd like to start with today is the story of another one of Rasulullah's companions, and in this case also his uncle. It's the story of Hamza ibn Abd al-Muttalib, Sayyid al-Shuhada. Right? So the story that is typically told of his conversion to Islam, it's the same story. If you watch the Message from the 70s, that 70s film, they portray the typical narrative very accurately. And it is a story that shows that Hamza is aloof to the whole mission. He's not even in the picture. And it seems from both the movie and also the narratives that he's kind of more like a rogue type of a person, out in the deserts hunting, and spending all his time hunting and out in the deserts, and it seems like he has nothing to do with what's going on in Mecca. And the story tells us that one day he is walking through Mecca. Maybe he's just returned from one of his hunting expeditions, and he gets news that Abu Jahl has publicly censured and even abused Rasulullah. And he flies into a fury. And he goes to that area, he finds Abu Jahl, and he still has his hunting gear with him. He goes up to Abu Jahl, and without any warning, he smacks him as hard as he can with his bow and cracks it on top of his head, knocks Abu Jahl down, causes him to bleed. And he says, if you have a problem with my nephew, take it up with me. So some of the people around, they look surprised because, again, Hamza has been out of the picture. What do you have to do with your nephew? What, you're a believer too now? They taunt him. They say, it looks like you started believing the nonsense that your nephew is saying. He says, in an anger again, yes, I believe whatever he says. Whatever he says, I say. And then the story says that afterwards he has to go to Rasulullah and he says, by the way, what do you say? What have I just signed up for? I publicly proclaimed it, that I'm a believer. Now he has to backtrack and figure out what is it that he's now committed to. And then he takes the Shahada and he becomes Muslim, and then he becomes a supporter of Rasulullah. So the story makes it seem like Hamza basically stumbled into Islam. It was really out of anger. The word that's used to describe him is hamiyya. Hamiyya is this, I don't have a clean word for it, but like tribal indignation. You know, the sense that it's a kind of racism, a kind of tribalism. That how dare you say something about my tribe? If you hurt anyone from my tribe, I'll kill your whole tribe. Like that kind of rage and anger, chauvinism, racism, tribalism, that's all hamiyya. And in fact, we have a statement from Imam Sajjad, salamullahi alayhi, where he says, لم يدخل الجنة حمية غير حمية حمزة ibn Abdul Muttalib. That this quality of hamiyya, this is one of the vices. You look at in akhlaq discussions, you look at the virtues and the vices, hamiyya is, and ta'assub is the other word that's used for it, the same racism, chauvinism. These are consigned to the vices, the things that we're supposed to avoid and to get away from, because these are very harmful characteristics. Right? Just think of, put yourself in that position. Someone, if you say, I'm Pakistani, anyone who's not Pakistani, they're worse than you. They're lesser. And you're proud just because of that nationalism, or just because of culture or language, whatever it might be, whatever causes it. But the sense that I'm better than others because I'm from this country or this culture, that's hamiyya. And it's a terrible quality, and it's a destructive quality. It leads to arrogance. It's one of the causes for arrogance. So Imam Sajjad, this hadith says that hamiyya, this tribal indignation, the chauvinism, has never gotten anyone into paradise except for Hamza. And then he briefly narrates the story. He says at the time when he became angry with Abu Jahl, he mentions that it's because Abu Jahl had put that salan naqa, that the afterbirth of a camel on Rasulullah. So it seems like they're two different stories. Maybe they got mixed up in this narration or whatever, but that's besides the point. But the statement is famous of Imam Sajjad, and it seems to support that common narrative that it was just hamiyya, it was just this tribal indignation that brought Hamza into Islam. But luckily, it brought him into Islam. It didn't bring him into kufr. Right? It's kind of it's a wild card. Maybe I'm extremely a loyal person, and I'm loyal to, for instance, people of my own nationality and my own culture and this and that, and so I feel very close to all of you, just because of racism, just because of cultural issues. But it happens that you all happen to be very pious people and religious people, and so because I became friends with you all because of my racism, I happen to get guided because you guys all happen to be Shia and pious and all of this. So my piety, my religiosity, whatever I get through my association with you, it's not really a great virtue for me. That's not what I signed up for when I came to become friends with you all. I became friends with you all because of my love for my own nationality or my ethnicity, language, food, whatever it is. It just happened that it led me to the right path. But if I had loved Indian culture, for instance, or I'm just picking, I don't want to cause any more enmity between Pakistanis and Indians, but say Indian culture, and then all my friends who also share Indian culture, they have to be Hindu. But I say, well, I love my culture, these people also share the same culture, I'm going to be friends with them, and then it leads me away from Islam into the vices of shirk and all the other activities that are against Islam. So this vice is a vice, and the fact that sometimes it leads me, in some circumstances that are beyond my control, it leads me to good, and sometimes in circumstances that are beyond my control, it leads me to evil, it has nothing to do with me. The thing that I have a problem with is this hamiyya, this vice of how I interact with people. So we'll come back to the hadith of Imam Sajjad alayhi salam in a little bit. But the story of Hamza and this alleged conversion through this anger, compare this now to the kinds of praise that we have of Hamza from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. He is known as Sayyid al-Shuhada. Right now we're in the season of Muharram, and so we know Sayyid al-Shuhada came to be used for Imam Hussein alayhi salam by Ahlul Bayt. But before Imam Hussein, if you said Sayyid al-Shuhada, everyone knew you were talking about Hamza. So he is a commander, he is the one who's leading the fight for Rasulullah. In the Battle of Badr, he leads them to victory. And in the Battle of Uhud, he also leads them to victory, but because of the failure of those archers who didn't keep their posts, the Quraysh launch a rear attack, and this Wahshi ends up killing him. So he's martyred, and in the janazah prayer for Hamza in particular, Rasulullah recites not 5 takbirat, which is the normal for janazah prayer. Right? If you participate in janazah prayer, you say takbir 5 times, and then there are different dhikr and dua that you say between those 5 takbirs. Instead of 5, Rasulullah says 70 takbirs for Hamza. He says the Salatul Janazah over and over again as a way to show this incredible respect for him and honor him for all of his service to Islam. At one point when Rasulullah was asked for recommendations for names, he said, my favorite name is Hamza. If you have a son, name him Hamza. Even in the story of Abu Dhar al-Ghifari, say Ghifari, not Ghaffari. I think in the Desi community, Ghaffari, it's not Ghaffari, it's Ghifari. No shadda and there's a kasra and the ghain. It's the tribe of Ghifar that he's from. So in the story of Abu Dhar al-Ghifari that I told you yesterday, this is right at the beginning of the message. Remember I told you that Abu Dhar is supposed to be the 3rd, 4th, or 5th person outside of the family of Rasulullah to become Muslim. At that stage, when Rasulullah is basically not even publicly announcing anything, it's still a very quiet movement, the people who vet Abu Dhar to check and make sure that he is honest and he's sincere and he's really going to support Rasulullah, he's not a spy or someone who's coming to undermine, Hamza was one of them. Not only defending Rasulullah and being an older brother. He's only 4 years older, even though he's the uncle in terms of generations, but he's only 4 years older than Rasulullah, so he's basically the same generation in terms of age as Rasulullah. Not just out of that tribal indignation that I'm just going to defend my nephew, I don't care what he says, I just make sure no one hurts him. even the conversations he has with Abu Dhar, he checks, he says, do you say the Shahada? Do you believe that Allah is one and that Muhammad is Rasulullah? And if he tells you something, you obey him. He also checks his beliefs and he talks to him about his beliefs for that one day when he's vetting him to make sure that he's safe to bring before Rasulullah. So this kind... So to get to that kind of praise of somebody, for Hamza actually to get to that kind of a station where he is being praised, where he is being honored by Rasulullah, where he is seen as an inspiration, he's being put up as an inspiration. Let me share one other hadith. There's a hadith in Al-Kafi, it tells us that on the Day of Judgment, there will be 4 individuals who enter the plane of judgment on mounts, on some animal. As a kind of dignity, they're allowed to come on a mount. So Rasulullah is named in that hadith as one, and Hamza is named as one, and then Prophet Salih is named, and Lady Fatima Zahra is named. These individuals are named in this hadith. So again, you see the ranks, the group that Hamza is being put into, that amongst those individuals who have this special honor of being able to ride like this into Judgment Day, Hamza is one of those that's right alongside the greatest of creation, Rasulullah, Fatima Zahra, who's not much lower than him, Nabi Salih, alayhi salam, and then Hamza is with them. So my point is that kind of a rank, that kind of a station that a person attains, that doesn't come by stumbling into faith by accident because you happen to have a vice, but you happen to be in the right family, so that vice ends up leading you to the right path. His is a path of conscious choice. Just like Abu Talib, just like all the other members of Banu Hashim, he's also been raised in this family that knows everything even before it happens. They receive the prophecies, they know what they're expecting, they know who Rasulullah is before he is able to declare his prophethood, before he's officially given the position. In fact, according to my research, every single member of Banu Hashim becomes Muslim and supports, except for 2 individuals. Abu Lahab is the one that you all know, Tabbat yada Abi Lahabin wa tab. He never believes and he dies and he's in Jahannam because of that. And the other one is the person named Abu Sufyan ibn Harith. Harith was one of the sons of Abdul Muttalib, so Abu Sufyan was one of his sons. He also was with Abu Lahab and he never came to believe. Only these 2 individuals are named as kuffar, who stayed kafir from amongst Banu Hashim. Every other individual, aunts and men, women, everyone in the Prophet's family, they all believed. And I think they believed very early as well. We may not have lists of all of them, but we don't have any conversion stories for any of them either. A lot of times people think that this da'watul ashira, when Allah said, وَأَنذِرْ عَشِيرَتَكَ الْأَقْرَبِينَ, I warn your close family members, your close clan. And Rasulullah invited the Banu Hashim. So one of the popular stories, at least amongst the Shia, is that as a result of that commandment from Allah, Rasulullah for the very first time introduces Islam to the Banu Hashim. But in reality, there are many clues in the narrations of this that he is not introducing them to Islam for the first time. For one thing, what I just said, these people are growing up in the household of Hashim and Abdul Muttalib. How is it that growing up in that family and then 40 years with Rasulullah, when everyone knows, Abu Talib knows and Fatima bint Asad, everyone knows, and these people have no clue. And according to the popular story, it takes them 3 years. For 3 years, he doesn't say anything. And then 3 years after his appointment as prophet, that for the first time he invites his family and says, by the way, I'm Rasulullah and there's only one God. So our ulama think that actually this is not about introducing Islam to them. The whole point of Da'wat al-Ashira was to introduce the wilayah of Amir al-Mu'mineen to them. This was the thing that was new, that was being introduced. When Abu Lahab shut him down for 2 days in a row, and then finally Rasulullah was able to make this proclamation that Ali is my successor. So my point is that Hamza is in a family where he definitely knew, he definitely believed already. We see so many clues from historicals, the stories as well, that before this incident with Abu Jahl, he already believed and was already a supporter of Rasulullah. One thing we can say, perhaps this story is correct, not that he converted when he had this encounter with Abu Jahl. But like Abu Talib, Hamza also was trying to put on a show of being a tribal chieftain for the benefit of Rasulullah, who's pretending like he's still mushrik and kafir, doing taqiyya so he could be in a better position to defend Rasulullah. It seems like he wasn't in as deep a cover as Abu Talib. Abu Talib was very successful and very tactful and was able to maintain his cover all the way till his deathbed, and nobody ever suspected. But whereas Hamza, he didn't do as good a job at covering his iman and pretending to be mushrik. And it seems that if this encounter is true, if this anger that he felt and this hamiyah that he felt when Abu Jahl hurt Rasulullah, this might have been the time when he finally couldn't contain it anymore. He couldn't conceal his faith anymore. And then he declared that he's a Muslim publicly. So he came out of taqiyya at that time, not that he converted. That was the first time he decided he would be a Muslim. Does that make sense? So that's a way that we can perhaps incorporate that story that's narrated quite widely into our understanding of who Hamza is without compromising, without making him seem like he's a clueless person who just stumbles into faith. No, he was a very insightful and perspicacious person who came to faith with full knowledge and was a full supporter, but he was also covering himself for the benefit of Rasulullah. But then when Abu Jahl does this, it angers him so much that he's not able to contain himself anymore. So he comes to defend Rasulullah, smashes him over the head, and then blurts out that, yes, I believe in whatever he believes in. Not whatever he believes in, I believe as he believes. Even the narrations, this is one interesting thing. If you look at the narrations that tell the story from that the popular story about him stumbling into faith, what happens when you try to mess with the facts and you try to adulterate, you don't always do a good job cleaning up all the loose ends. So even in that story that says that he hit Abu Jahl and then they say, what do you believe too? His response is, I have come to understand, I've come to believe in what my nephew says. Right? The words that he uses are not the words of someone who doesn't know what he's saying and he's just believing in something randomly. He's saying, I have come to believe through reason. He's saying it's something it's a process he's gone through. He's already come to believe, and now he's simply declaring it to people in public, but it's not something that he hadn't already thought about and understood before. Recite salawat ala Muhammad wa alihi. So that's this popular story, that's some of the criticism of that story, and an alternative story that helps us to understand the true value of Hamza. Now, why would such a thing take place? Why would history be written in such a way to try to downgrade Hamza's role and his personality? Well, what did Hamza do at Badr? Badr was a pivotal point for the Quraysh. All these people who had been staunch enemies of Rasulullah, who were the chieftains, the aristocrats of Mecca, all of them showed up at Badr, with the notable exception of Abu Sufyan, who was with his caravan, and the notable exception of Abu Lahab, who didn't come to Badr, but rather paid someone else to go in his stead. And because of that, according to one tradition, al-Fadl, Abbas's wife, has an interaction with him, gets angry with him, and hits him over the head, and it causes an injury that gets infected, and he dies because of a festering wound to his head. right in the aftermath of Badr. But this was a critical, a pivotal moment for the Quraysh, because in this battle of Badr, they lose 70 people. And amongst these 70 people are all the aristocrats, all those, the top-notch people in Quraysh, they're all killed. And out of 70 people, we have a record of who killed whom in the Battle of Badr. Out of 70 people who were killed from the Quraysh side, 35 of them, half of them, were killed by Amir al-Mu'mineen. Second in casualty count after Amir al-Mu'mineen was Hamza. And amongst those who are killed are very important people in the family of Muawiyah and Yazid. Because the people who actually initiated, the people who went first on the battlefield to challenge the Muslims to one-on-one combat were Utbah, Shayba, and Walid. So Utbah is the father of Hind, the grandfather, the nana of Muawiyah. Shayba is the uncle, Utbah's brother, so Hind's uncle. And then Walid is Hind's brother. So three people who are all the akhwal, the maternal ancestors and maternal relatives of Muawiyah and Yazid. These are the people who were on the front line. They came out and challenged. They said, send us our equals, send us our matches. And first, a group of Ansar come out who were very brave and wanted to show Rasulullah that they're willing to put their lives on the line. And Utbah, he said, no, you're not our matches. We want our own matches. He had this hamiyya. We want Quraysh to come out. These Ansar, these Medinan people are not up to our caliber. Send out Quraysh. So then Rasulullah sends out Amir al-Mu'mineen and Hamza and Ubaidah. Ubaidah is a cousin of his from another line. He's from the Banu Muttalib, not Banu Hashim. But he was also a great supporter. So he was sent out to fight against Shayba. The two old men fought with each other. And then Utbah and Hamza fought against each other, the two kind of middle-aged men. And then Walid and Ali fought together, the two young men. And within a few strokes, they kill all three of them. Utbah is also mortally wounded in his leg, and he ends up dying because of that. He's one of the shuhada of Badr. Sorry, what did I say? Ubaidah. Ubaidah is also mortally wounded. He ends up dying because of that. But all three of those individuals from the Quraysh side are killed at the hands of Rasulullah, because he's the one who's brought the army. He's the one who's brought the army to raid the caravan in the first place. So he's at fault in Hind's mind and in Muawiyah's mind. And then Ali is at fault because he actually killed these individuals. Hamza also is at fault because he also killed some of these individuals, and they both combined their efforts to kill some of them. So in the mind of Hind, the mother of Muawiyah, the evilest of people, the worst, the people she hates the most are Rasulullah, Hamza, and Ali. So when she hires Wahshi before the Battle of Uhud and says, I'm going to give you, your weight in gold if you can kill any one of these three, and I'll free you, the targets are these three individuals. Any one of these three that you can get to and kill, then I'll give you your weight in gold and free you. And the one he's able to get his hands on is to drive a spear into Hamza and kill him. So this enmity that was planted in the heart of Hind in the Battle of Badr, and then only slightly maybe lessened when she ate the liver of Hamza, it became Akilatul Akbad, the one who eats the liver eater, is the title that she's given. Comes as Ziyat Ashura. We refer to Yazid and Muawiyah as Wabnu Akilatul Akbad, the son of the liver eater. So that's the notoriety that Hind earned for her actions. Now think what kind of hatred Muawiyah and then Yazid and all of the Banu Umayyah are going to have for someone like Hamza, someone like Ali, someone like Rasulullah himself. And when they are in charge of the government, then they can patronize the historians, the reporters, and they can spin the information and create whatever information they want in that history to suit their own purposes and to vilify the people that they view as enemies, even if they're heroes of Islam, but they can make them, downgrade their nobility by making them seem so ordinary and even worthy of some criticism. So again, that's a good tool to have in our tool belt. One of the filters that we have to have is to be aware of enmities from the Jahiliyyah. This is a Jahili enmity that Hind had. It was on Jahili standards that she had this enmity toward someone like Hamza. And so those Jahili enmities, they play a role because they stay in the hearts of some of these people who don't purify themselves, who are not sincere, and they still cling on to those Jahili standards, that's that baggage, and it comes out in the way that they talk and in the way that they patronize and the way that they allow certain things and don't allow certain things. Recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ala. Alright, so this is another snippet from the seerah of the Rasulullah to help us to better understand one of these stories, especially someone so significant and so close to Rasulullah's heart. I'll tell you one other story. This will probably be the last snippet I'll be able to share with you tomorrow. All of our interactions and our speeches will be focused on Sayyid al-Shuhada and his story and his maqtal. So I'll finish off with this story. I'll see if I can condense it. One of the very popularly narrated stories from the seerah of Rasulullah is the story of his hijrah, his migration from Mecca to Medina. It's the start of our calendar, such a significant event. So very briefly, what led to it, I'll talk about that. And what I want to focus on is the role of Abu Bakr in that hijrah. Because this is something that is put on a pedestal by Ahlul Sunnah. That because he was the companion of Rasulullah during his hijrah, because he was in the cave of Thawr with Rasulullah during the hijrah, this means that he is a very outstanding companion, and this is a singular virtue for him, and therefore so many things follow. Therefore he's the most appropriate person to succeed the Prophet. This is why he has such virtue and this and that. So this particular participation of Abu Bakr with Rasulullah in the hijrah is really milked for all it's worth, and our brothers and sisters of Ahlul Sunnah, they take this as a badge of honor for Abu Bakr, and it became a sanction for so many other wrongs through Saqifa and beyond, because what can we do? Rasulullah chose him. So the hijrah, I won't go into the details of it, but the hijrah happens because Abu Jahl, seeing that Abu Talib is now dead, he sees that Rasulullah is vulnerable. We talked about the dates in one of the earlier lectures, that it wasn't 3 years before the hijrah that Abu Talib died. He died on the eve of the hijrah. As soon as he dies, then all the plots and the plans are hatched by Abu Jahl and the leaders of Quraysh, that look, now's our opportunity. Until now, we couldn't touch Muhammad because his uncle was always there to protect him. The uncle's out of the picture. And actually, most of the people had done hijrah by now. Because Rasulullah made sure that everyone else went before him. So in the months and weeks and months before his own hijrah, Rabi'un al-Awwal first of the first year of the hijrah, before this time, he had already made sure that everyone else had left. So all the able-bodied men had left, many of the women had left. The only people left in Mecca on the eve of the hijrah of Rasulullah are women who didn't have the support or anyone to take them and help them to go, or children or weak people, sick people who weren't able to go by themselves. So they stayed behind, and the plan before this assassination attempt was that Rasulullah, maybe Amir al-Mu'mineen, that all go together, take all the weak and the poor and the people who couldn't manage themselves, and then leave with them together. But now, when this assassination plot is hatched, everything has to speed up. Now Rasulullah has to leave right away. Gabriel tells him that the plan is in motion, and so he comes up with his counter plan of planting Amir al-Mu'mineen in his house, disguising him as himself, making it clear to the assassins that Rasulullah is in his house when it's actually Amir al-Mu'mineen who's there. And then when they're all in place, he escapes in plain daylight. Not daylight, but plainly in front of them, where they should have been able to see him, but Allah miraculously prevents them from seeing him, perceiving him, and he's able to walk right past them. In some narration, he says that he took some dirt and threw it on each one of their heads. And in the morning, they saw they're all covered with dirt. They had no idea where it came from. Rasulullah had done this just as a kind of an insult to them, or for whatever reason he did it. So he escapes. Amir al-Mu'mineen is left behind. What we are told is in Shi'i ahadith, in Al-Kafi actually you have this tradition that says that Rasulullah had told all of the few Muslims who were left, the women and these other people, infirm people who were left in Mecca, that tonight everyone's supposed to stay at home. Nobody should come and see me. Nobody should be out. Curfew on all the Muslims. So he passed this message around to everyone. He said his farewells to his own women, Fatima Zahra, his other daughters, in his own household, but he sent out word to the Muslims that you must all stay in your homes tonight. What he was he wanted to clear out everyone. He didn't want anyone to come and blow his cover. If he's not there, if someone comes, knocks on his door to ask a question or to do something with him, then it'll become clear that he's not there, it's Amir al-Mu'mineen instead, or no one's home if no one answers the door. It becomes very complicated if someone comes and ruins the whole scenario. So to get rid of everyone, make sure there are no glitches in the plan, he tells everyone you have to stay at home. When Rasulullah comes out of his home under the veil of Allah's cover, the narration of the Kafi tells us that he sees Abu Bakr is there, hiding in some corner somewhere, and he's defied the instruction of Rasulullah. He was supposed to stay home like everyone else, and now he's out on the street. Maybe he was wondering what's going on, he was curious, whatever his intentions were, but now he's out. And so Rasulullah has to do damage control. He says, fine, come with me, and he takes them along. Only because he is in the wrong place at the wrong time, he takes them along with him. And of course the direction that Rasulullah has to go, if you look at the map, Medina is to the north and Mecca is to the south. So he's supposed to, yes. Correct. Medina is to the north and Mecca is to the south. So he's supposed to travel north from Mecca towards Medina. But to throw the Quraysh off the trail, he ends up going southeast instead. Instead of going due north like he's supposed to, Rasulullah makes his rendezvous point and tells Imam Ali and Hind, who is his other helper and his someone who was taking care of an adopted kind of a son, he tells them to meet him in the Thawr cave, which is southeast of Mecca. So now Abu Bakr is with him and he has to take him along. If he leaves him, then he's liable to get killed and hurt in the assassination attempt, or he's liable to go and explore and knock on the door and blow the cover and ruin the whole plan. So he takes him along with him as damage control, not to honor him, not as part of the plan. And they end up at the Thawr cave. They hide out for some time, and in the cave, then all those miracles happen. Once they're in the cave, then Allah sends that spider to weave a web to seal off the cave. He sends some pigeons to go and make a nest and lay their eggs there. And this was part of the cover. But what Rasulullah sees is that his companion, who has ended up coming with him, is out of sorts. He's so scared because he feels like they're going to get caught, they're going to be killed, they're going to be captured, they're going to be tortured. He's so worried all the time that Rasulullah is now scared that he's going to run out of the cave, for instance. If he hears footsteps coming, if he hears horses, he's not going to be able to control himself. He's going to yell, he's going to scream, he's going to run. He's going to ruin the cover. Even the verse of Surah At-Tawbah tells us this. Allah says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, إِلَّا تَنْصُرُوهُ فَقَدْ نَصَرَهُ اللَّهُ إِذْ أَخْرَجَهُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا ثَانِيَ اثْنَيْنِ إِذْ هُمَا فِي الْغَارِ. Allah says that if you are not going to come to the aid of Rasulullah, no problem, because Allah Himself aided Rasulullah. And then he mentions the story when he aided him at the time when the kuffar made it so that he had to leave, he had to flee from Mecca as one of the two. So Thani Uthnain actually refers to Rasulullah. In Arabic, when you say Thani Uthnain, that means one of the two. It doesn't mean the second of the two. That's the way they say this in Arabic. Right? So he was one, Rasulullah was one of the two. Usually when people use the word Thani Uthnain, they refer to Abu Bakr as Thani Uthnain. But the Quran is referring to Rasulullah as Thani Uthnain. The one of the two. So the kuffar made them leave, and Rasulullah was one of the two. Allah helped them at the time when they were in the cave, when he, one of the two, said to his companion, "La tahzan, inna Allaha ma'ana." Don't fret, don't worry so much, don't be so scared. Allah is with us. He had to reassure Abu Bakr because he was so scared. Rasulullah was full of tranquility because he knew what's happening. He knew Allah is his protector. He's brave. But Abu Bakr is so scared. La tahzan, inna Allaha ma'ana. Don't fear, Allah is with us. And then the verse says, فَأَنزَلَ اللَّهُ سَكِينَتَهُ عَلَيْهِ. Allah then sent His sakina on him. The him here refers to Rasulullah himself, not on his companion. His sakina comes down on Rasulullah, and it's clear from the coming verses, coming phrases, because all of them are referring to Rasulullah himself. Allah sent His sakina down on him, and He helped him. وَأَيَّدَهُ بِجُنُودٍ لَمْ تَرَوْهَا. He helped him with armies that you don't see. Seems to be a reference to the spider and the pigeons. So who's being helped? Abu Bakr is not the object of Allah's nasr. The whole point of the verse is aiding, giving nasr to Rasulullah. If you're not going to help him, it doesn't matter because Allah is going to help him. He already did help him so much. Remember the time when he and this other person were in the cave? And the person with him in the cave was so frightened that he had to say, La tahzan inna Allaha ma'ana. And at the time when Allah put His sakina on him, on Rasulullah, and sent armies to help him, to aid him, that you can't see, but Allah put them in place to help the Prophet. And then the verse goes on. So this verse, this story then, according to a popular transmission of it, and a popular spin of it, is made to seem like this is a great honor, that he was selected, he was part of the plan, he was supposed to be there. When Ahlul Bayt are telling us that this is not the case. He was not supposed to be there. This is supposed to be a solo trip for Rasulullah to escape miraculously from the clutches of these assassins. Nobody was supposed to know about this. Now, one of those ahadith that they've manufactured to support this story that it was an honor or something like that, is that Abu Bakr comes to the house. I don't know where the assassins were at this time according to this transmission, but he comes to the house and he asks Amir al-Mu'mineen, where is Rasulullah? And Amir al-Mu'mineen tells him that he's gone to Thawr, openly. This is such a highly secretive mission. Nobody knows. He's made everyone stay at home, curfew. He doesn't even tell his own family what's happening. The only people who know are Ali and himself and Hind. Hind ibn Abi Hala is the son of Hala, the sister of Khadija. So he's also raised by Rasulullah as a son. Right? Hala dies, the son comes and lives with them, as Khadija is his khala, is his aunt. And so now he comes into the household. He is so highly trusted by Rasulullah that he is part of the plan. He meets them at Thawr, he brings them food, and then he's in charge of getting camels ready for the migration. That itself tells us what kind of a person this is, that he's so trusted by Rasulullah. These are the only three people who are supposed to know about the plan. And now Abu Bakr comes into the mix. And out of damage control, Rasulullah takes them along. Fine, you're here. I don't want you to get killed. I don't want you to ruin the plan. So just come with me. So now they go to the cave. They meet after a few days, according to the plan. Ali and Hind ibn Abi Hala, they come to the cave of Thawr. And they have a reunion there. And that's when Rasulullah says what the next plans are. He tells Ali that you have two jobs. You go back to Mecca, and your job first is to return all of the amanat that have been given to me over the years. People would give me their trusts, and I didn't have time to give them all back without raising suspicion. So now it's your job to go and make sure that everyone gets the trust back that they've deposited with me. That's one. Your second job is, once the trusts are given, to bring all the fawatim. And Fatima bint Asad and Fatima, his own daughter, all these women, children, weak people, infirm people, anyone who couldn't come until now, spend, buy camels, buy whatever you need, and bring them to Medina. They're under your care, your trust. That's your job. And he tells Hind, your job is to get camels so that we can do this migration. Abu Bakr at that time says that I have 2 camels, we can use those. Rasulullah's response to him is that I will not take your 2 camels unless you take money for them. I won't take a gift. So they negotiate a price and they come to an agreement, and then Rasulullah tells Ali to give him the money for it on the spot, and then to go and collect those camels back in Mecca from Abu Bakr's house and bring those 2 camels, along with a 3rd camel for their guide, Abdullah ibn Urayqit. So all that happens. I'll tell you a couple of more things. One is that when Rasulullah and Abu Bakr end up in Medina, they don't go to Medina first, they go to Quba. So they first, from Mecca, they went south to the cave of Thawr, and then once it's safe enough, then Abdullah ibn Urayqit leads them through a very kind of off-the-road path to go back north towards Medina. But in Medina, they don't go into Medina itself, they go from the south, they enter into Quba. It's a very treacherous route into Quba across these lava fields. So they go to Quba and they wait there. And the plan was that Ali, once he finishes all of his tasks, he would bring the Fawatim and all the women and come and meet him in Quba, and then they would enter Medina together. So a hadith in Al-Kafi tells us that when they get to Quba and they settle down, Abu Bakr is very impatient. He says, let's go to Medina. Everyone's waiting for you there. They're so happy to see you. We need to leave Quba and go to Mecca. Rasulullah says, no, I'm going to wait for Ali. The plan was to wait for Ali, and I'm not going anywhere until he comes. Abu Bakr says, it's going to take a long time for him to come. People are impatient. They're waiting. We need to get going. Rasulullah puts his foot down and says, no, I'm not going to go until Ali comes. The hadith from the Imams tells us that Abu Bakr felt a sense of jealousy towards Amir al-Mu'mineen. It started at that point. That Rasulullah is so devoted to Ali. He says that he put his life down on the line for me. I'm not going to leave until he comes and joins me. And so Abu Bakr leaves Rasulullah. He goes to Medina himself and he settles down there a few days or weeks before Imam Ali shows up, and then Rasulullah enters into Medina together with Amir al-Mu'mineen. That's a very different story that we get from Ahlul Bayt and even from some of the regular seerah sources that gives us a very different outcome of what Abu Bakr's role was. And if his role was not that he was chosen as a companion, he was selected as a companion, he was supposed to be there, then this being a companion in the cave is not such a kind of a badge of honor that should be thrown in our face all the time. That because he was there, therefore that trumps everything that Ali had. It seems very much to be one of those efforts, especially by Muawiyah. It wasn't by Abu Bakr himself. It wasn't that he adulterated the history. There was no history being written at his time in his short khilafah of 2 years. But Muawiyah, after the fact, in his khilafah, one of his tasks, besides putting down Ahlul Bayt and raising up the Banu Umayyah, was also to raise up the Khulafa. Because if he can make Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman seem more special than they are, then Ali seems less special, less spectacular by comparison. So comically, if Ali is Babu Madinat al-Ilm, then he manufactured a hadith that says that Abu Bakr is the wall and Umar is the roof, and different other aspects that somehow they have some role to play in that city too. As those cities have roofs. But he's Saqfu Madinat al-Ilm. So these kinds of hadith were manufactured by Muawiyah's kind of agents and his pseudo-scholars who were being employed so that they could raise up the status of these khulafa for his purposes. Because if he could make it seem like Abu Bakr and Umar are also great, just like Ali, if Ali was lying on the Prophet's bed, Abu Bakr was there with the Prophet, actually traveling with him. So they're both part of the team. They're both team players. They're both essential for Rasulullah's success. They're both the same. Right? So that becomes the motivation, the motive for manufacturing these kinds of ahadith, or giving this kind of a spin to ahadith, to raise the station of people who didn't have that station, and as a result, to make the illustrious position of people who had high stations seem very ordinary. Recite salawat ala Muhammad wa
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
From the side of Umar ibn Sa'ad's army, Shimr ibn Dhul-Jawshan lets out a cry one day and says, "Where are my cousins?" He is related to al-Banin. And so he calls out to Abbas and his three brothers, Abdullah and Uthman and Ja'far. And he says, "Where are my cousins?" We're told that Abbas ignored him, he didn't answer. And then it's Hussein who insists, because of Salatul Rahim, you should at least answer. Let's see what he has to say. So because Hussein tells Abbas, he goes and he answers Shimr and says, "What do you want?" So he says, because of this family connection, because Salatul Rahim is such an important Islamic value, I am willing to give you aman, give you amnesty, because you're my cousins. Abbas's response is, "La'anak Allah wa la'an Allahu amanak." May God damn you and may God damn your amnesty. How dare you mention your lineage and your connection to me through blood, and you ignore the connection that we all have to Rasulullah, to Imam Hussein through Rasulullah. The grandson of Rasulullah is here, and you don't give him aman, and you give me aman based on this tribal lineage. We're told that on the day of Ashura, after so many of the Ahlul Bayt had gone and given their lives for Imam Hussein, Abbas calls his three brothers and says, "It's your turn now." He sends Abdullah, who's the oldest, and then the two younger brothers, Ja'far and Uthman, and he says, "I want to see you give your lives for the sake of Hussein," and he sends them forward. They fight bravely, and then each one of them falls as shaheed. When all of the family members of Hussein are killed, only Abbas is left. He is the standard bearer. Seeing his brothers fall on the battlefield, he feels that he wants to take revenge for them, and he wants his turn now. There's no one else left to fight except Hussein himself. He says, "Now it's my turn to go." Imam Hussein makes an excuse and says that you are Sahibul Liwa'i, you're my standard bearer. If you go, if the standard drops from your hands, then I have no army left. He tells them that instead of going to fight the enemy, our camp is in dire need of water, and this is the job that you can do. These young children, the women are helpless. Take a water skin and go to this Euphrates and see if you can fetch some water for them. So Abbas dresses in his armor, he puts on a water skin. Some of the reports say that the standard he carries is not carried in his hand, but it's attached to his helmet. So he doesn't have to hold it. He's able to manage his weapons and manage his skin, and he goes out towards the Euphrates, which is blocked by these soldiers. The reports say 4,000 soldiers were guarding the water, and he rides into the sea of soldiers, and with his courage, with this aura that he has as he marches into them, as he plows into them, they part. They're not able to fend him off, and he's able to drive all the way through and get to the Euphrates. He comes down from his horse, he is able to fill the water skin, and he mounts again on the way back. Again, he has to fight his way every step of the way, and there's soldiers all over the place. Now realizing how desperate the situation is, that they're in danger of defying the command of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ubaidullah and Yazid by allowing Hussein's camp to get water, they fight even more desperately. And instead of fighting with any sense of honor, they start throwing rocks, they start shooting arrows, which they can do from a safe distance. We're told that one individual is able to leap out from behind a tree and strike Abbas on one of his arms and incapacitate him from one side. Another is able to come and incapacitate the other arm from the other side. And this barrage of arrows that comes down on him finally pierces this water skin, and even the water that he was able to collect from the Euphrates drains away, and with that his hope also. The attack of the soldiers is intense. They are able to bring him down from his horse. They are able to beat him and to shoot him with arrows. Imam Hussein races in to defend him and to push the soldiers off from around him. And they have one last intimate conversation. He brushes the blood away from Abbas's eyes, and he declares his brokenness, that you were my standard bearer, you were the last member of my army, and now you are gone. Now he says, in kasara dhahri wa qallat hilati. Now my back is broken. Now I have nothing left to fight for. Now I have nothing, no tricks left, no stratagems left to be able to fight against this enemy. Ala la'natullahi ala qawm al-zalimin. Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah wa ala al-arwah allati hallat bifina'ik. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. Allah, we ask you to shower your mercy and blessing on Muhammad and the family of Muhammad. Help us, Allah, to follow in the footsteps of Hussein. Accept all of our efforts to commemorate him. Reward us. Forgive us for our sins. Let our tears and the palpitations of our heart wipe clear our record of sins. Raise us on the Day of Judgment in the company of Hussein and the Ahlul Bayt. We yearn that we could have been amongst his companions with him on the battlefield, so that we too could have achieved their success. Ya laytana kunna ma'ahum fanafuza fawzan azima. Salawat ala Muhammad wa alihi.